can get this. Oh boy, the camera angle's all off. I'm telling you, every time I go to make a video, it's some bullshit that comes up. But I am so excited. I just had the most wonderful time. My youngest daughter's teacher invited me to do a draw along with the class. I absolutely had fun. Like, it was much needed fun. And anybody that's a parent knows it. The job of parenthood, the job, the work, the dedication, everything that goes into entertaining children. Okay? You want a challenge? Yeah. Be a parent. Or a teacher. You know, snatch somebody's kid. take them for a week or two. And see how fun the insanity can be. But no, I enjoy myself so much. And it's like, it literally sometimes makes me question my career choices. And just to, a lot of times we have to realize that we self-sabotage. We really do self-sabotage. And it's a shame, but like, it's not like, I'm not going to say it's a negative thing, because in going through that process and those challenges, you learn more and more deeper about yourself. When I started out thinking about a career and everything, when I was younger, my first desire was to be a veterinarian, because I absolutely adored animals. Like, anything with animals, I'm there. Now, and that's what started my interest in art, because I wanted to capture the things I was observing with the animals and things like that. But when I took classes and everything with art, like even before that, like my grandmother taught me how to draw, and it just became something that it really, like, I really tapped into it. It was my calling or whatever. But as life went on, I questioned myself. I questioned other things. And when it got to college, I did go to art school, but I ended up switching my major to sociology. And another challenge is I have an interest in some of everything. I enjoy learning. I'm like one of them forever students type thing. But I just really enjoyed learning about different stuff. And like, the more I was exposed to things, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's just very exciting for me. But when I got into art college, it was a lot going on. It was along with personal stuff and the realization of things, the realization of what's expected and things like that. So I had took time off, and then when I went back, I still took art classes, but I ended up switching my major to sociology, because I love the study of people too. So they're the most interesting animal. But and it's really weird, because like the whole story, how everything unfolded, so to speak. Because when I first started drawing, like I said, animals was my inspiration. And I didn't draw people. Like, I just wanted to draw animals. I didn't want to draw people. I had to get the head movement in there and the hands. But I didn't want to draw people. I wanted to be around animals more than people. And at one point, I wanted to be an animal when I was younger. I used to drive my mom nuts, because when I like to like role play and act out stuff, and I really get into character. And I get into character so deep. Like, my own mother, she was like, "You're freaking me out. Stop it." So I've even had people say, "Oh, you should have been an actress or something." Came close, but no. So then animals was my first inspiration, and they still are an inspiration. I didn't start drawing people, I'd say probably third grade, and that was because everybody kept it, like, they would see my art, and I was like, oh, I want you to draw me a people. My one friend, like, she used to say people in the plural when she was asking for me to draw her a person. She's like, I want you to draw me a people. And I'm like, it's not a people, it's a person. But yeah, like, I didn't start drawing people until third grade. And even then, it wasn't a thing for me. Like, I like fantasy creatures, any kind of animals, things like that. I'm trying to think, and I can't even remember. I can't remember my first. I can sort of remember. I know it was in a composition book, my first drawing of a person, and I think it was a guy or some character or something I had made up. And I think that was my first, like, really, like, honing in on drawing people. But art, like, I'm going to jump around. This conversation is going to be all over the place. Y'all probably going to see my ADHD, if I have ADHD. Story behind that, I got a story for everything. I think it was third grade, they tried to label me with the ADHD thing, and I ended up having to go to a child psychiatrist, which that's when my parents found out that I was gifted. I don't know what they call it. Like, everything's changed since 70 years ago, way back in the dark ages, since they decided to do all this, labeling of the certain expressions, how people express themselves mentally and things like that. So I was labeled gifted. They did not put, as far as I know, the ADHD thing didn't come. But as I learned over the years, I was like, oh, maybe I did have a little bit of ADHD or whatever. And I just learned, like, probably 2 years ago, I was, somebody was telling me that now they considered, when you are considered gifted, it's actually on the spectrum. I am not well versed in that stuff. I haven't looked into it. I've only, dabbled. So I don't know, but I'm like, oh, interesting. I was like, I didn't know that. Like, now that's considered on the spectrum. And it's so many different terminologies and explanations for our mental processes that like I said, I've only scratched the surface, so I'm not an expert. So you may hear me mention something, you'll be like, you did wrong. I'm like, okay, then I'm dead wrong. But going back, I ended up, my mom ended up finding out that I was gifted. I was put in, like, the classes for gifted people, and what I remember mainly from that, it's also where I met my lifetime best friend. What I remember about that is that they had this rule, like, for me anyway, like, as long as I got all my work done, I could draw. So I would literally, we had to do these, like, these workbooks, and it was basically you were left on your own. Like, you were given the curriculum, and you just had to go through the books and go through the books and do the whole learning thing, like each subject and everything. So I would literally rush through and complete all of the books, like sometimes 3 months in advance, just so I can sit and draw. And I remember one of my schools, they were like, when they were taking, like, the pictures and the description of each student, and it said under mine can be found anywhere there's paper and pencil or paper and pen, because of how much I used to draw. I really did live, sleep, eat, draw. Like, I enjoyed it, and I could be, like, hours can go by, like, literally, and people are like, well, what are you, I'm drawing. Leave me alone. I'm in my element. But, long story short, like, around my early teens, I had some personal things that happened to me that I stopped drawing for, like, almost 2 years. And I may share that, I may not, I'm not sure. I'll see how comfortable I feel with that, because it may help somebody else that's, going through the same thing. But I got back into drawing. It was music that brought me back into expressing myself again. And I still remember that day, I had a classmate come in, and she was very upset, and I'm like, well, what happened? I was like, what's wrong and everything? And she's like, I don't think I want to do music anymore. And I sat there and I was like, no. I was like, you can't. I was like, you can't give up music. I was like, that's music is what saved me. I was like, you can't give up pursuing music. But yeah, so the ups and downs of being a creator and having a creative mind. Shoot. I've been seeing a lot of his videos, and I am so sorry that I can't remember the name. But it's a. Oh my God! Now, like, I'm gonna have to edit. But anyway, it's a book and it has like the sun symbol on it. I'm so mad that I can't remember his name. It's so embarrassing. But speaking, like, his videos are all over YouTube too. Like, speaking about the creative process, and when you are a creative person, it is a challenge. Like, there's a lot that goes on up here. And it was I think it was a quote from Marilyn Manson in one of the magazines where he says there's a thin line between an artist and a serial killer or something along those lines. And I'm like, there's a thin line between genius and insanity. That's another one. And it's so true. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form the type of typical genius with, mathematics and everything. And I love math, don't get me wrong. But my majority of my expression is in creativity. Like, I've taken, like, I do those personality test things for fun. I'm not like I'm set, I live by these tests, and when I take these tests, and what comes out is exactly what's supposed to be. It shows up all kinds of ways. But every test that I've taken, like IQ tests and everything comes back creative. And because at one point I didn't want to be an artist. Like I said, I went through some challenging times, and I will share some of the stuff. But at one point I'm like, no, I want to put my attention on something else, and I want to see how I can progress in that thing. But literally every single time I tried to deviate away, I was led right back, and the universe was like, no, bitch, get your ass back over there and do your work. I tried some of everything because I have a broad band of interest in things, and because I know some people will take that and be like, oh, what was it, stupid, oh God, the brain is going like 100 miles an hour right now, so bear with me. Jack of all trades, master of none. That shit, and that shit in itself too can be dealt with too, because a lot of times, like I said, I have an interest. I love learning things, and especially if it's something that I can see that I can benefit and help others to benefit from it, I'm all about it. Now, my perception of it may be different from other people, but I would try my best, like what I'm doing now, trying to share my process, which, like I said, it's a little bit all over the place. This is a very organic process, and sometimes what happens is, like I said, again, standing in my own way, I get to the point where I'm like, no, you got to do it this way, and it has to be done this way, and if it's not done this way, then it's it. And then the universe will come along and be like, no, bitch. It's going to happen the way it's going to happen. You can't control every stinking thing. And it's not like a control, like, freak type of thing. I'll admit sometimes. But for the majority of the time, it's not that. It's just, I'm trying to grapple with how things are going to play out. And I was laughing because my friend said, she was like, you're trying to have a neat explosion. Explosions aren't neat. Stuff's going to go all over the place. Stuff's going to get everywhere. And I had to laugh. I was like, that's exactly what it is. And you see the insanity of it, a controlled explosion. And I know one person will be like, yes, there is technically, scientifically a way to have a controlled explosion. But like I said, bear with me. I'll be jumping all over the place. But yeah, going back to like just being creative, just kept coming up. I can't get away from it. I can't. And I think that's what my problem is. I keep, because of my interest in so many things, like I have to narrow down and focus. And I've been told this in more ways than one, to discipline myself in my focus of one thing, master it, and then see where it goes from there, that it would be really beneficial for me to do. But like I said again, like I really do feel like the ADHD thing, because I know also that ADHD can come, you can have adult ADHD, I know, but it's lots of challenges. It's some bumpy roads, some roadblocks. Sometimes I'm accelerated, sometimes I'm slowed down to a halt. And right now, at this stage in my life, I know people usually call it a midlife crisis. I've had many of crises, but I don't look at it as that. I think to me, it's a midlife awakening, and that's a whole nother topic in itself too, because you don't only go through one awakening, you have multiple awakenings. It's just like the same thing with death. You metaphorically and spiritually, like, you die over and over, and to be reborn, to come back awake, you sleep, you die. That whole cycle, it repeats in other things as well, because you can change personality, change who you are, and it's like a miniature death. You're letting the old things pass away, and then the new things are coming, and you have to be receptive to those cycles. And sometimes you can get in your own way when you're not receptive to it, and to learn how to flow with things instead of trying to control them all the time. And it is difficult. That's one challenge that I have, dealing with balancing out things, because sometimes I can be very, very extreme. Other times I can be lackadaisical, where I'm like, I don't even give a crap anymore, and I can fluctuate between those. So it gets hectic, but to be willing to notice that, and kind of like observe it, and be able to step back, and you're in the situation, but to be able to step back and observe the situation from above, below, side by side, it is very important to do so. And I journal a lot, so I like to look over my old journals to see where my headspace was back then versus where my headspace is now. And it's helped me. It has helped. Like I said, some of that stuff will be shared and everything, but basically this is a sort of unfolding. It's like it's starting over. It's scorched earth. A lot taking place, being a parent, being there for people that need me, but most of all, like, a lot of times I fall into, I'm there for everybody else, and I'm not there for myself, and that is a no-no. Yourself is supposed to come first, and then you have the people like, oh, you're being selfish. No, sometimes you have to be selfish. You have to be selfish. And like, I always think about that, because like, if you don't take yourself into consideration, you're going to run into a lot of issues. So you always have to, like I said, that balance. And I've been kind of I'm out of balance. I've been dealing with helping others so much, because I enjoy, people I love. I'm there, even if it means sacrificing self, which you start to set your boundaries, because you notice you'll be getting stepped on a lot, and you're like, hey, could you not step on me? Could you not flare up on me? Metaphorically. But it's a process. It's life. It's challenges. And I wanted to share, like, you'll see throughout my videos, like, 1 minute I'm like I am now, I'm very full of energy, and the next minute I'm like, drag it along. It was this meme with this cat on a leash, and you can just see him being dragged, and it says, no. I was like, that's me every day. Drag me out, like, drag me by a leash. And then other days, if you ever see those dogs that forget they're on a leash, and they get all excited, and they go to run, and then they're yanked back to the gods. That's me on other days. So, finding that balance, finding that kind of, finding something that works, a process. That's where I'm at now. Trying to find something that works to balance out work life, personal life, and my creative side. Now, we all know about compartmentalization, where you try to compart and like keep everything all separate, kind of like, you know, those kids that don't want you put my food over. I can't have the beans touching the rice. It's got to be over here and all that other stuff. It's kind of like that. You can't. Sorry, I'm speaking from my perspective. I started to notice, you know, my wanting to compartmentalize stuff. And it's like, no, like, for instance, as a creator, creativity runs through everything. Like I said, when you take that step back, when I was trying to corner it, I was running into problems and running into issues. And when you that's part of you. It's always going to be there. It's always going to, in some way, influence what you're doing. And I see that more and more. And sometimes, like, challenges will arise on how to incorporate that without causing so much friction. Sometimes you have to cause friction. It's like a whole process. So I wanted to start kind of like sharing my experience of how to deal with the whole process, how it looks, how it performs, how, you know, and finding something that works. I'm coming from a background of customer service jobs. I have over 20 years of retail experience from all perspectives. And I at one point I hated it, but I understand and I see why it was important for me to go through those processes, because it gave me different perspective. It helped with my perception of things. Coming into contact with so many different types of people, their backgrounds, how they were, and having to work with them and finding something that where we can work together, helping people out and everything, explaining, teaching. Because, so you have those moments in your life and you're like, what is this? I know everything has a purpose and all this other stuff, but what is this? Am I being tormented? Like they always say, what doesn't kill you make you stronger? And that whole thing. And I'm like, well, look, I'm going to be a petrified piece of something by the time I get through all this crap. Because I was like, sometimes it's just challenge after challenge after challenge. And I'm like, please, can I get a break? Can I get a break? Can I get a vacation? Please, just a couple hours. And life is like, nope, you gotta deal with it. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know why this is happening. But I see now, like, how it helped me develop into the person that I am today. Like, a whole lot of times I was thrown into sink or swim situations without explanation. Because when I'm interested in stuff, I like to do research, background, everything, so I know what I'm dealing with. But life in the universe is like, no, bitch. You're going to have to deal with it as it comes along. We ain't giving you no hints. We ain't letting you. And I'm like, please, can I just get something? And it's like, nope. So it's like sink or swim, just thrown into the situation. And one thing I remember when I was working for one retailer, they would literally have you go through all this training. Like, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks of training. Then they would throw you into the fire. They would put you in the situation the busiest day, and they would wait to see how you react. And I sit back now because I do have a competitive spirit, but it's not like, I'm not like over the top with competition. It varies. I'll say it varies. But yeah, I was like, y'all ain't getting me. I'm like, bring it on. We'll see how long. But I remember they would literally stand and bet who would leave and go to lunch and never come back, because they knew they couldn't handle that pressure. They knew they couldn't handle all the stuff that was being thrown at them. And don't get me wrong, because you get me on a day that I'm like, I will walk away. I'm like, nope, I'm not dealing with this. But I don't give up. I'll come back, because like I like a good challenge. Because in challenges, you learn about yourself, you learn about the process, you learn about your mental process, you learn about other people's mental process. And like I said, I like to study people. So it's fun for me. Not to say that, you know, there's days where I'm like, oh my God, like what did I get myself into? But I know like some people will be like, oh, I regret doing this, I regret doing that. And you may hear me slip up and say it, but it's just a surface thing. Like I really don't regret, because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be the person that I am. And even though some of the stuff was really messed up, but again, I wouldn't be the person that I am if I didn't get thrown into that situation. So I have gratitude towards things like that, because it's helped me with other situations, and it's also helped me to help others see through the situation. But all this is like, you know, going back to my creative expression. I'm like on cloud 9 right now, because I really enjoyed myself today doing that draw along with they were second graders. I just enjoyed it. Like I felt, I don't want to say like it wasn't like I found my purpose. Like in a way, it was like I found my purpose. Like I know what my purpose. I know what purpose, and then purposes will change. It's like you don't only get like one purpose. You have multiple. Some people like to focus in on one, but there's multiple purposes, and it's not like I didn't feel what is it? Like I like the feeling of like, you know, you're in there, you're in where you belong, type of thing. Who doesn't? But it was just wonderful seeing how excited the kids were, the questions that they were asking me, the things that I told them, and knowing that, you know, they'll take that with them and put it, you know, hopefully put it to good use. But the teacher she was like, they will not forget this. She's like, they love, because I send little notes in my daughter's lunch boxes. I call them lunch notes. And I put like little messages on there for them. So when they, you know, have their lunch, you know, typical mom stuff, I know. But she was like, the class literally is so excited to see what note or who I've drawn for their lunch notes. And that, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes me feel useful. I'm being useful. No. It makes me, I just, it excites me, because like, I draw, and like, you see so many talented people, and that's another thing with being a creator. You see so many talented people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like, well, compared to this person, but you got to keep in mind, only you can do what you have been put here to do. No one else. You're always going to have your touch on it. It's always going to be from your perspective, your perception of it. No one can do that, because no one else is you, you know, and realizing that, like, I had to like really take it, because sometimes I can get into the whole falling into the perfectionism thing. And like I said, I love a challenge. So when I come up against, I'm like, I want to be perfect. I want to win. I want to be the best. Like, I do get caught up into that. Nacho Libre, I love that movie. Okay. You want to see the craziness come out. But, it's just, and I got a phone call coming in, of course. So, hold on.